From Buffalo Wild Wings in Bismarck, welcome to Benchwarmers. Today's featured guests are KFYR-TV Sports Director Lee Timmerman, Bismarck Public Schools Activities Director Jim Haussler, Minot State University Sports Information Director Michael Linnell, and our host, Midco Sports Network's Tom Nieman.
Welcome to Buffalo Wild Wings. We are in beautiful Bismarck, North Dakota this week, and it is fabulous weather up here in the Northland. Great panel, and we're going to talk about the Vikings, the Twins. Should they be buyers or sellers? Blow that thing up this year. We'll get to that. And I'll talk a little bit about the Northern Sun and some football coming up here very soon with the University of Mary here in Bismarck and Minot State just up the road. But let's start with high school football. And I want to get the North Dakota view of what goes on in South Dakota. But let's start with this, Jim. There's a new high school in the works here in Bismarck. It's called Legacy High School. And what's the athletic schedule look like as far, just talk about football, as far as what's coming up for Legacy here this year and next year?
Well, Legacy High School is more than just in the works. Actually, we're in our second year of existence. We have a makeshift high school. We don't have the physical plant completed yet, but we've had a year of sports already under our belt, and that was a freshman program. Starting this year specifically with football, Legacy High School is actually going to play with sophomores and freshmen 2 varsity games. They're going to start out playing Cheyenne, which is the new high school in West Fargo, and made up of only juniors on down. And then the following week, the second non-conference game is going to be against Devils Lake High School. So the first 2 games are actually going to be against varsity programs. After that, they'll move into the WDA schedule and play JV programs within the WDA or within the conference.
All right, so we're going to make 3 high schools here in Bismarck. You got Bismarck High, you got Bismarck Century, that are very good programs. How is Legacy going to fit into this little competitive landscape up here?
Well, first off, I'll give a little tip of the cap to Jim, because Legacy is going to fit in fine, and I think the reason for that is the coaches that this guy has hired. The coaching staff that Legacy has already is just outstanding. Jason Horner for basketball, Nick Walker for basketball, Chris Clements for football, not to mention, Coach McPherson for tennis and some of these things. But I mean, it all revolves around coaching, and he's got veteran coaches with a lot of those guys with college experience already coaching the 9th graders, and then this year will be the 10th graders, and then for the full varsity as 11th grade, they'll be fine.
All right. This brings up a fascinating deal to me about how the high schools, and especially in football in North Dakota compared to South Dakota. I want to get you guys' opinion on this. Minot's the biggest high school in North Dakota right now. And Mike, just talk a little bit about, should there be another high school eventually coming up in Minot, because the numbers get to where you call for a new high school?
I feel there should be a new school in Minot, especially as fast as we've grown. Size doesn't necessarily dictate how you do on the field, so whether or not that's a factor or not, but I do think that just the distance from houses and the amount of kids we have in the system now, that it definitely should be, and I think it will be. I think it's just a couple years, and funding and financing is a big part of that. It's not just the should there be one, it's how do you build it. But I think we're on the track of having a new high school in Minot in the next couple years.
The one comment there that fascinates me is the size of the school does not dictate success on the football field. Do you agree with that or not, Jim?
Absolutely, I agree with it. Size is always a factor. I mean, it's a factor. If you look at, you have 4 divisions in North Dakota. If you look at the teams that kind of repeat every year in the playoffs, it's kind of the same teams, but it's not all dictated by enrollment. Definitely not. I think what Lee talked about is who's the general, who's in charge of this program dictates a lot on the success of these programs. Again, size doesn't determine all of that at all. I think if our philosophy is that opportunity is the number one reason we have high school sports, then we should have additional high schools, more opportunities for kids. Essentially, in theory, we're adding 50% more kids in our activity programs in Bismarck with the addition of Legacy High School.
And the way Bismarck's growing, I mean, I don't know. I think, Jim, Legacy should have been online maybe 3 or 4 years ago, and we should be talking about the next high school, but we're spending somebody else's money, our own money, but yeah, I mean, I don't think we're that far away from that yet here in Bismarck.
The demographics in western North Dakota are changing dramatically. I was just talking pre-game or pre-show, we were talking about the fact that within 4 days we're adding 11 new kids in our high schools on a regular basis. Almost in 2 months you've got 100 new kids. I mean, we're growing very fast. But again, it really comes down to opportunity. I mean, sports were good for me. And the more kids we have involved and the more competition you have in town, the better. If you look at Sioux Falls with the 3 public high schools along with O'Gorman, I mean, Lincoln and Roosevelt in the state football championship. You look at Fargo, we're still in the genesis of the development of Davies. That didn't stop South from winning a state championship. So, I mean, the addition of schools doesn't dilute talent the way some people think it does. I think what it does is it provides more opportunity.
South Dakota roots, though, you've worked there, you're from there. And is there not more of a disparity at the top in South Dakota between the big schools in football than there is in North Dakota? It just seems like there's more conscious effort to keep that competitive balance as far as numbers in North Dakota.
Well, I don't know. It seems that way, I guess, especially when you're talking Sioux Falls now. Of course, as you guys know, couldn't beat Sioux Falls, so they added another class and all that type of thing. But I don't know. I think North Dakota is a little bit different in South Dakota, that east and west, we're split east and west. We're sitting in Bismarck and we're considered the west, but we're in the middle of the state. But there's more balance between east and west in North Dakota than there is between east and west in South Dakota. And I think that's one of the things that really kind of hurts South Dakota when you look at the big schools compared to up here.
And there's this conscious thought in South Dakota that all these other states are laughing at us because we have 7 classes of high school football. There's 4 here in North Dakota. Is that true? Do people laugh at South Dakota?
Yes, they are.
Yeah, I feel like it's too many, and I just think that we always talk about maybe being too many here, and you've got quite a few more. So, we were laughing earlier that it just seems like there's too many for the amount of kids.
I think the fewer classes there are, the more the general public and the general fan are interested in what's happening once you get to the playoffs. The more you split it, the more the casual fan goes away and doesn't pay attention, because like we were talking before we went on air, the few years ago when South Dakota had all 3 9-man champions from the same conference. I mean,
don't upset the 9-man people.
Well, no, but I know that's a can of worms. You can deal with it when you get back to town, but we can open it. But it's too many.
All right, you guys are blowing all my arguments here. South Dakota, all right, is messed up from the North Dakota perspective. We could talk about this for about 20 more minutes, but we're going to move on and talk about some Northern Sun Conference football. You got University of Mary here in Bismarck. We got Minot State right up the road. We'll talk with Mike about the leftovers from the coaching change at Minot State when we come back.
Benchwarmers on Midco Sports Network is presented by Buffalo Wild Wings.
Welcome back to Benchwarmers, Buffalo Wild Wings in Bismarck, North Dakota. And Bismarck, the home of the University of Mary, plays football in the Northern Sun Intercollegiate Conference. Minot State just up the road. And let's talk about a story that was just fascinating this summer at Minot State University in football. You had Todd Hoffner, who was at Minnesota State University in Mankato, was fired there, comes to Minot State, takes over the job here. Turns out he shouldn't have been fired at Minnesota State, so he goes back. So, Mike, you were right in the middle of this whole thing, and is there any residual, I guess, Hoffner leftover residual hate from him being here and that whole situation that went south?
I don't think it's so much hate. I think it's disappointment. I mean, we felt that we did a good job during the hiring process, and we're extremely excited for him to come on board. He was a nationally, regionally recognized coach, had won games at Mankato, and had done very good job there. And we were extremely disappointed. I felt we moved on pretty quickly when it was done, because there's nothing you can do about it. And we're just as excited about Tyler Hughes being our head football coach now. We wished him well. We won't wish him well in week 3, and we hope to go down there and shock everybody, in that game down there. And honestly, past that week, we won't think much about him. So no, I wouldn't say there's any hatred, but we certainly aren't following his career day by day anymore.
All right. You were in the middle of this too. How bizarre a story was this?
I was more on the outside looking in, just kind of maybe smiling at Mike and having to deal with more of that. But it's really strange. And I think the reason it's strange, and the reason that Minot State probably had little to do with it, is that somebody somewhere in Mankato goofed up bad to do what they did to Hoffner, to put him and his family in that situation, and then for him to have to make the decision to go back and do all that family dynamics. But you know, you can't say Hoffner hasn't been a winner, and I thought Minot State and and Rick Hedberg, the AD, made a great hire. We'll never find out though, because he didn't stay.
From an administrative perspective, how goofy was this whole thing?
Well, Lee's right. Somebody made a mistake. I think of all the kids that were involved in this. You know, the kids at Minot State, the kids at Mankato. I mean, this is a pretty disruptive thing. But you know, like Lee said, he's been a very successful coach, and going back to Mankato, probably a little bit longer in the Division II program. It's going to be a top-notch program. It's going to be St. Cloud. It's going to be Duluth. It's going to be Mankato. I don't care what. I mean, yeah, some of us hope it's somebody else different, you know, especially us in Bismarck and in Minot. But it's tough to beat those teams. But going back to Mankato to establish team, I can understand it.
Yeah, oh, by the way, they went 11-0 in the Northern Sun last year. What about you, Mary, new coach here as well?
Yeah, it'll be strange when the whistle blows here in a few weeks to not have Myron Schultz out on that practice field, because Myron had been within the program for all 25 years. And but Josh Kotelnicki's taken over. Coach Thomas, who hired him, obviously comes from UND and has a UND background. Kotelnicki played on the national championship team from Mike's alma mater. Tim Belmore, who is one of the guys who helped recruit Weston Dressler up to UND, is down being the offensive coordinator. So I don't think there'll be too big of a surprise to find out that there's going to be some former Fighting Sioux things happening here at UMary.
All right, and there's some UND fans and some North Dakota State fans around here, but UMary and Minot State are a big deal in this part of the world, aren't they?
Well, that's the reason why we made the move to Division II, was to put ourselves on that next level and become the big deal in Western North Dakota, and hopefully in all of North Dakota and the region. So yeah, we think I was in Shields today, and I saw a rack of Minot State stuff. It's about the first time I think I've ever noticed it down here. So we feel like we're making some inroads, and yeah, it's football in Western North Dakota is hopefully going to gravitate around these two programs.
I think the one thing though, that people still have a hard time of wrapping their hands around here in the NSIC is that in order to be competitive at the top of that conference, you must be one of the best teams in the whole country. That's how good the NSIC is, and sometimes you look at UMary went 6-5 in football, and some people might go, it wasn't a great year, but it was a good year. And you know, to beat the Mankato's and the St. Clouds and everything, I mean, you have to be top 10 in the nation in order to compete in the conference, and I still don't think a lot of people realize that.
College football gets started here very soon in North Dakota and across the nation. We will talk about the Minnesota Vikings when we come back. We'll see if anybody cares what's going on in Mankato right now.
Benchwarmers on Midco Sports Network is presented by Buffalo Wild Wings.
Welcome back to Benchwarmers, Buffalo Wild Wings, Bismarck, North Dakota. And I think we're in Vikings territory, are we not?
Yes, you
Maybe
are.
Some Denver Broncos fans.
A little bit.
Some Packer fans.
More than Denver.
More than Denver. More Vikings than anything, though?
A lot.
They're in training camp. Does anybody care? Are they going to be any good or not? Nobody here thinks they're going to be any good. What do you think?
Well, when the biggest talk is a rookie quarterback who's not expected to start, I don't know. I don't think they're going to be that good, and I hope it's one of those things I always say. I hope I'm wrong, but I think the Vikes will struggle again.
Okay, Michael.
You hit the nail on the head. It's a quarterback league, and they don't have one. I mean, they might have one for the future, and we'll see about that. But as of right now, I don't think they do. And there's no such thing as 3 yards in a cloud of dust. Everybody plays on field turf. It's the little black pellets nowadays. I mean, the game has changed, and it's different. And they don't have the guy under center, I don't think, to do it. And defensively, we'll see there's more question marks than there are answers. And so if you're relying on basically one really good running back and nothing else, in my opinion, that's a long year.
Yeah. All right, that's 2 for crappy. Jim, what do you think?
I think it's 3 now, but you always hope. Hope runs eternal. It really does. I think it really comes down to the quarterback position. You look at the Vikings schedule. I mean, they start out tough schedule. They've got, I think, the Rams and the Saints and the Packers, and I can't remember who else is there, but they start out really tough. This is my prediction. I think what they're going to do is they're going to go with Castle. They'll give Castle the opportunity to either succeed or fail. And about week 6, I think we're going to see the good athlete out there. I think we're going to see Bridgewater by week 6. That's my prediction.
Terrible way to go into the season, isn't it? I mean, that's the crux of the whole thing is, well, we'll give Castle a chance. We know he's not going to be any good, and then we'll get Bridgewater in there. That's how it's going to go?
But at least it buys Bridgewater another month and a half to try to learn what the NFL's all about. So if that's what you have to do it. That's better than letting him sink right at the beginning.
And you have to protect Peterson somehow. I mean, right now you hope he gets through those first few weeks alive, because there's so much pressure. If you don't take a little bit off of him, I always think, what would he be like if Aaron Rodgers was the quarterback? I mean, he'd be unbelievable.
And it sounds like they're going to get Peterson out and throw it to him a little bit. And
hopefully he catches it.
Try not to get him killed that way. But one more quick thought on the NFL while we got you. Weston Dressler, guy from this part of the world, played at the University of North Dakota, was in the Canadian Football League, now with the Kansas City Chiefs. Does he have a chance or not?
Yes, I think right now as we sit, I think Weston's on the bubble considering the position he's trying to play, but we all know that if you give that guy a chance, he will get it done.
Really?
He always has, and he always will. And if the Chiefs give him a legitimate shot, he's going to be wearing red.
Yeah, we were talking earlier that he's undersized. He's not big enough to play in that league, but he's been that way his entire career, probably from high school on up.
That way in midget football, it's too little to play.
Right, and has overcome it, and not only succeed, has been one of the best at what he does. So no doubt that he can play. Like you said, will they give him the chance? We'll see. Training camp's a tough place to earn a spot, so we'll see if he can stay on, and then he'll be fine.
It would be very cool to see. All right, when we come back to Buffalo Wild Wings in Bismarck, we'll go into the crowd for our Winging It question.
Benchwarmers on Midco Sports Network is presented by Buffalo Wild Wings.
Welcome back to Benchwarmers at Buffalo Wild Wings here in Bismarck, North Dakota. Time for Winging It. We go into the lunch crowd for a random question, and this one comes from Grant Feldner from Bismarck. He wants to know, should the Minnesota Twins be buyers or sellers with the Major League Baseball trade deadline coming up? All right, thank you, Grant. And one guy is still interested in the Minnesota Twins at this point, and the question is, trade deadline coming up here at the end of the month. Should the Twins blow it up? Should they go out and try to get a couple of players, a pitcher? I say just start from scratch, which they should have done a couple of years ago, but any opinion on this?
Well, a couple of years ago they tried to be a bigger market team and it kind of failed. So let's go back to just being lovable, because they're not going to win with the big money. Well, that's what I'm saying. Let's go out and get some hustle guys, and you'll lose, but at least they'll be lovable.
My heart's with the Twins. I've always liked the Twins. They're my favorite team, but they should be selling. They tried to buy not long ago. I mean, Nolasco looks like that's $9 million thrown away. Hughes looks like he'll be all right. Morales, they tried, I don't know what they were trying there, but got rid of him already. If they could get someone to take Willingham, I'm sure they would. And at this point, if they could get someone to take Mauer, they might even do that.
Do not say that. Would they actually do that? You think that's even a possibility?
I don't think they would, but should they when he's got $23 million a year coming? Maybe.
Jimmy, you a Twins fan?
I don't know. I like the lovable comment. I want them to be lovable again. They won last night, so they were more lovable to me today. They got to do something, and I'm not exactly sure what that would be.
And you keep hearing about this farm system, these guys they have coming up.
Bring them up and let them play. Yeah. I don't know. They haven't done it yet, but, Buxton's supposed to be the next Mike Trout. Well, he got hurt. Sano is supposed to be their, corner infielder on the third base side. Tommy John. Bring them up, let them play. We'll find out if they can play. They tried it with Hicks. He failed.
Lovable losers is what Twins fans can hope for. There you go, Grant. Congratulations. Happy rest of the season for the Minnesota Twins. When we come back, our poll question about those lovable Minnesota Vikings, who's going to win the NFC North this season, is the question when we come back.
Benchwarmers on Midco Sports Network is presented by Buffalo Wild Wings.
Our poll question this week here in Bismarck: who will win the National Football League's NFC North this season? And the Minnesota Vikings get 22. We had about 50 votes on this here at Buffalo Wild Wings. 44% say the Green Bay Packers again, which is probably right, but there's a lot of Packer fans around here for some reason, right, Jim? Is that right?
There are a lot of Packer fans. I'm not going to lead into that, but I'll tell you what, there are a lot of Packer fans around here. I think the Packers are going to win it. I really do. I think they have the potential of being a Super Bowl team. They really do, because a healthy Aaron Rodgers, it makes a big difference, and their defense is going to be a lot better this year than it's been in the past. Somewhat thank you to the Minnesota Vikings, but I think they're going to be better defensively. I think the Chicago Bears are going to be a little bit better defensively. I think it'll be Packers, Bears, and I think the Lions have some pretty good talent, but they're still the Lions, and I'm not sure they can quite get there. And then the Vikings, I think the quarterback situation is going to be the Castle of 2008 or the Castle of 2010. Yeah. We don't know.
It goes back, Mike, to what you said about the quarterback league. What do three of these teams have that the fourth one doesn't?
Yeah,
right. The quarterback.
It's kind of, like you said, it's kind of easy to, the breakdown is the better quarterback as they go down, the less the percentage went. So yeah, you're right. I think it kind of hits that right in the head.
And you're a Vikes fan.
I'm a Vikings fan, but I'm a Packers owner.
Are you really?
I am a Packers owner, so I'll take the owner. I'll go Green Bay.
And finally, if you want to catch some fish, where do you go in North Dakota right now?
Devil's Lake.
It's hot. Was hot last week.
It was very hot last week. Yes, we did outstanding in our fishing.
All right, thank you guys. Appreciate our panel being here in Bismarck this week. Next week we will come at you from Buffalo Wild Wings in Brookings, South Dakota on Benchwarmers.